according with the idea of Plato, it is important to develop a specific type of confederation to the defense of a city-states. This is really important because, on the one hand, the idea of the thought of Plato is, in this sense, develop a specific type of connection between city-states. This is really important because if we have to consider the history, we have to consider in this sense that the ancient Greek society saw specifically a different type of city-states with different type of government and different type of constitutions. This is really interesting. In fact, if we take if we take the politics of Aristotle, we know that, for example, Aristotle developed a specific type of different type of arguments, considering different type of constitutions of the ancient Greeks. This is really important because if we consider the politics of the ancient Greek city-states in relation with the idea of constitution, we have to remember that in this sense, Aristotle, for example, developed a specific type of different type of constitutions. This is really important because the Greek idea of law, it was in relation with specifically to consider different type of constitution of city-states developed according to each philosophers what city-state could be better. In this sense, in fact, if on the one hand Plato tried to develop a different type of constitutions between city-states, developing an idea of confederation, according to Plato, in this sense, the Persian Empire could be really important. Dangers could be dangers in front of the city states. Therefore, the city states, between their differences, had to consider a different type of common law to develop a specific type of connection and defense between against the Persian Empire. Therefore, Plato, it was that author that wanted to develop a specific type of connection between city-state and, for example, developing a constitution basing on the idea of Sparta and Athens, and also, for example, of the island of Crete, etc. We understand this in particular in the laws of Plato, one of the last dialogues of Plato, and probably one of the most important dialogues of Plato. On the other hand, if we consider the idea of Aristotle, we have to understand in this sense that Aristotle were much more interested to develop a specific type of independence between the city-states. This is really interesting because on the one hand, Plato, it was the author that lived in the period of the classic period of a city-state, where the city-state it was hegemony, in this sense, Athens on the one hand, and then Sparta. But in any case, Plato, he lived with the war of the Peloponnesian War, and at the same time, Plato, on the one hand, criticized his contemporaries and his citizens of Athens in relation with the demagogy that produced the fallen of the hegemony of Athens. But at the same time, Plato considered that it was, in any case, important to understand the other type of costumes of the city-state, as, for example, Sparta, to understand what other type of interesting arguments this city-state could develop in front of a specific type of original constitution. Therefore, according to Plato, it was interesting to divide the city-states, but at the same time consider a specific type of connection to take different type of costumes and laws and constitutions of a city-state to develop a specific type of social system and objective system to arrive at a specific type of end for the constitution of a city-state. This is really important because, on the one hand, Plato, it is true that it was the author of Athens, and criticizing the idea of the demagogy and the aristocracy in the sense of Athens, but it was also that author and that philosophers that wanted to innovate the idea of ancient Greek society. This is really important because, for example, Plato, it is really, it is not in relation with the idea of a specific type of education for the aristocracy, but in this sense, education in relation with the attitude. This is really, really important. On the other hand, Aristotle, it was the author that considered specifically the idea of particular division between city-states, but at the same time, the idea of empire. That empire that developed Alexander the Great. And in this sense, we have to consider that if we have to reflect about this, Aristotle tried to think about the independence of a city-state, criticizing the war system of city-states, for example, Sparta. But Aristotle lived in that period where there was a specific type of empire in Greece that, in any case, arrived to consider the possibility of the empire. But we know that Aristotle, in any case, it was in any case in relation with the idea of a city-state. Bye.